I spent most of my days at elementary school alone, sitting underneath the shade of the playground structure, sand falling onto my hair. I got really good at sitting alone with my thoughts. But I also got really good at watching. A teacher would later label me an observer, someone who watches and takes everything in from afar. I stuck with that description for a long time. I observed and I listened. I got really good at listening, not so much at speaking. When I attended a high school where participation counted for a minimum of 30% of my grade, listening skills served me well in some areas, but my inability to communicate left me getting held back my sophomore year. See, I went to a classically focused school, and our most important class was Humane Letters, a seminar-based humanities and history class. I was terrible at seminars. Teachers would specifically slip topics into seminars my friends had told them I was interested in, a failed effort to get me to speak up more. My writing abilities were also sorely lacking, and break periods after lunch or after school were in one-on-one tutoring sessions, where I was taught piece by piece how to actually read a book, and how to write an essay with some semblance of legibility. And I mean actual legibility. A teacher once sat someone who was still one of my best friends right next to me, just so I could relearn how to write in print. Thank you, Isaac. But I was lucky. The school I went to was small, tightly knit, and still growing. It would have been easy to let me fall behind and surf mediocrity, but I now had teachers, friends, and a support system that others rarely get, people who wanted me to succeed. Then my junior year, the school started a new initiative. They introduced a house system and announced they needed house leaders, mentors, people who could not only head chapters of the houses, but also foster their culture. I looked around and saw the types of people who were applying. People I admired and respected. People who not only spoke their minds well, but could do so for others without a single hesitation. When I wrote my application essay, 5 pages longer than the requirement, I wrote about them: Dara Johnson, Jack Fresquez, Lorenzo de Guzman, Lily Dunsing, Janui Thomas, Isaac Wen, and countless others. It's been 7 years since I was a house mentor, but I still think of them. So what have I done since? Made a lot of mistakes. Failed to live up to their example, lost contact, dropped out, isolated myself. But that's never been new to me. I persevered. When I found Public Allies, I had been teaching at that same school for 4 years, spent 9 years there total. I had done everything I could to foster the next generations of students, but felt I needed to begin again. Start fresh. A year later, I was an ally. Since then, I have thought a lot about what it means to be a leader. When I interviewed with my program manager, Yelotsi, I mentioned the civil rights activist Ella Baker, and it is one of her quotes that sticks with me most profoundly. Give light, and people will find the way. I am here because I was given a light. During my time at Public Allies, I don't just participate in seminars, I guide them, facilitating conversations amongst some of the best and brightest minds I've come to know. Reach out to people who might be looking for their own light. I write communications that may never be heard, knowing that if they find me in the darkness, I can share what I've learned. I get to talk to the next generation of allies, learn what calls them here. But it was in crafting and giving my presentation Leading Authentically that I learned my most important lesson. To paraphrase Sim Kern in her novel, The Free People's Village, a fungus is not just the mushrooms that pop up out of the ground. That's just the fruiting body. The real fungus is the network of mycelium underground. The mutual aid work we're doing here, that's the mycelium. The roots of the fungus spreading underground, forming a network through the forest for miles, unseen, strengthening the whole organism. That when the conditions are right, the right amount of rain, sun, press exposure, public outrage, little mushrooms pop up all over the forest. And mushrooms shoot out spores, millions of them, spreading their fungal secrets everywhere the wind blows. Now we wait for the next time conditions are right. Wait and be ready. In the meantime, we grow our network, spread our mycelium, strengthen our community. To those who I have met, spoken to, mourned with, and fought alongside with, I hope to see you all again when the conditions are right. To speak, to fight with, to mourn with. Not just as an observer, but as your friend and ally.